the ones from before like to do stuff like, a lot of times the people that crossed over, maybe in the last 500 years, they haven't figured out how to go higher. And they're still attached to the earth. And they remember you from when you were incarnate then. And you're the closest thing they have to a friend, because they attach. Now, other times it may be something directly trying to manipulate you because you have a high gene code. And if you get that gene code running in reverse sequence, where your DNA templates are running the currents in reverse, you can be a very powerful force to mess with your grids. You need to be aware, if you're going to be an effective healer of any kind, that it wasn't old wives' tales that all the legends from the past came up from, as far as things that could possess people. Possession is a reality. We call it field infiltration. Alright, that's a technical word for it. It's not something you have to be afraid of, and it won't happen to you if you run your D12 current. The reason it has happened in our whole history is full of this. Does anybody remember their ancient Egypt days at all? Because I know most people, okay. Do you ever remember some of the things we went through when people joined an initiate school? The first thing you had to do was clean them up. And they went through certain energy processes where they'd be exposed to frequencies that would raise the currents in the body, and anything that had attached itself would come screaming out, and some of them were nasty. You know, it was like you had 4 or 5 people standing around, body of the person who was getting clear, would lay down, and you start to beam the frequency out. Gently bring the frequency out, and you start to see little things fly out of the field, right? Like little shadow forms. And if there's something nasty in there, like something from a high, like a D11 avatar, you would start to see the body breathe. It would start to try to take over the personality, and that's where you had to be a master, the possessor, which meant when it started to show itself, it means it was coming up out of the DNA template where it was holding on before, that's when you need to pull. And the person has to have enough fortitude to push. You literally have to get that energy quantity out of your energy quantity if you're going to have a clear field. These things were real back then, and they are real today. So we have been totally mind-wiped. Well, we don't even think possession's real. It doesn't go wives' tale. People who are as evolved as we are with our scientific understanding. Oh, the arrogance sometimes that science teaches us. It's not the scientists themselves. It's what inspired them to go in the direction that they belong. If you were a thing, like a D11 avatar, and you had your sights set on some nice little indigo bodies down there, and had a lot of potential for messing with the earth roots, the last thing in the world you wanted to believe or know was that we even existed. Because then all you had to do was sink your energy field down into theirs, and manipulate it any way you wanted to, and they think it was there. They wouldn't know the difference between themselves and something coming in unless they were trained in energy sensing, unless they knew themselves and their parts well enough to feel disharmonic. This is why our culture has been taught progressively since before medieval times to make sure the feminine senses were repressed. To make absolutely sure psychics were that stakes were not possible, right? To make sure this knowledge was not in the religions, it used to be in the religious teachings until they became control dogmas. Why? When we evolved into a science that is soulless, this is the only thing that's real is what's up here. Who might benefit from this? Who might be giving the inspiration to the direction of the evolution that's taking here? You can answer that one for yourself. When you start to get your perceptions turned on, when you start to become interdimensional, when you start to pop out of your... Did anybody do astral projection here? Oh, you have something to look forward to. Astral projection is where you stay awake, or you put your body to sleep, and you move an image of your body, or you just make it all light out. You keep your consciousness, your stream of consciousness, and you can go anywhere. One of the biggest amazing things about astral projection is when it first happens, you kind of bounce yourself out of your body, usually in a very disorganized kind of way. You find yourself in your body, your body that's like a ghost, except it responds to thoughts so fast that if you think you want to go over there, if you think it too hard, you go flying through the wall. I used to, when I was learning astral body technique, and I didn't realize my soul was training me. This would just happen spontaneously. I found myself in my astral body hanging like a bat upside down on the ceiling, and I couldn't figure out how to get my head up and my feet down. It gives you a whole new vehicle to use, and it's very, very real. It'll also find to be very useful. It used to happen when I was very young, spontaneously in class, and then got shut down because the young self that I was would really go up in second grade behind the teacher. She found that I could sit there and read a book, and I could project my astral self out the window, go play like out in the yard and stuff. And still keep an eye on my teacher was coming by, so I'd be totally focused back here. But then I started doing things like going up behind a teacher's desk and looking over her shoulder and looking at her grade book. I'm not good at reading. That's when my higher part said, all right, not now. And it shut the whole thing down because I was abusing the privilege. And I realized it was just like, yeah, I do this one. You have a world to discover. You have many worlds to discover. Wow, I thought people would have probably been doing that. That's real interesting. It's exciting to talk to a group of people who aren't fluent yet in what it means to get out of the body. This is when it all starts to get really new again.
Can you protect yourself from the heart shield in the astral plane?
Yes, and in fact, if you start finding yourself doing other bodies, do your heart shield immediately. Even if it's just taking the hierophant symbol. In fact, here's a quick, this is quick before we learn how to do this one. Quick protection. Imagine 144 pointed ball with spikes. It's a 144 pointed star. You'll never be able to see clearly all those 144 points. They're just intended there, kind of like a ball with all the spines sticking out on it. That's a very specific and very powerful mathematical coding of the hierophant symbol. Inhale to gain momentum. Exhale hard, push it down to Earth's core. And this is kind of like your clickety brag concept that you use with mouse. On the next inhale, you're going to pull, and you're going to feel it pull the energy from your heart shield, that thing that sticks out and is activated around your heat mode. And lock it on chakra 14. That will bring up a temporary, immediate heart seal. Now, it won't last unless you're working with the techniques to help your body to hold that frequency. But if you're in danger, or if you find yourself spontaneously in the astral, because your soul consciousness decided it was time, this is really, who's controlling this? It was you. You have your deep fire consciousness saying, okay, it's time to get out of the astral now. I'm going to have to see what's out there. You need to become responsible. There's a lot of people that are doing astral projection and they have no idea they need to protect themselves. And that's when they get in trouble. You can actually kill your body by accident. Even if nothing messed with you. You get out of the body and you stay out too long. It's the same thing that happens as in the death transition. In the death transition, as your consciousness leaves the body starts to drop in frequency. And your consciousness goes up in frequency. If you look at it like a cord of energy, if that range of frequency gets too long, if you're stretching that rubber band of cord too much, it snaps. The frequency of the body drops fast, and the frequency of the consciousness goes up in frequency, and the connection is severed. And at that point, all the crystal seals in the body shut down. The consciousness is pulled out of it, and you can't get back into the body. And I fight this sometimes. If you stay out too long, you're having a good time. It's like, I don't want to go back yet. There's something that the first time I don't want to go back yet. Your body will reel you back in as if you're on a fishing line. And some people try to fight it. You can fight it. But if you fight strong enough and win, you may accidentally kill your body and not have something to get back into. There's a reason the body draws it back. It means its frequency is going down too long. Did you ever wake, this is another cue to see if you've ever done astral projection or not, just you just don't remember it yet. Did you ever wake up in the morning or after a nap where you feel like you have rigor mortis? Where everything is just major stiff. And it feels kind of cold in the body. And usually, what accompanies this is, you're really hungry. Your body just needs to put something in to bring it back into focus. That usually means you're projecting in the dream state. When you wake up in that state, where you really feel like the dead rising again, it's not just unusual cloudiness because of the natural chemicals that are produced, but because you were out of body, disassociated, for a long period of time, it will literally create a feeling of remorse as in the body. And if that goes too far, you don't have a body. So it's interesting to know that astral projection is one of the small things you have to look forward to. Astral projection is just going into D4. What's even more fun is realizing you don't need to carry an image of your body if you don't want to. You can ball yourself up into a ball of light, and you can go into any dimensions that your consciousness holds the frequency of. If you have a DNA template that's activated as gram 6, you will carry the 6th-dimensional frequency in your consciousness, which means you can have a 6th-dimensional ball of energy to go play D6 with. So it's all connected. It is also connected to death. I want to talk about this a little bit. When a person dies, if they have been on 3rd strand activation only and have not pulled high-dimensional frequency, they will have to come back. Their consciousness leaves the body and stays in density 1. They'll stay in the frequency band where it is without help. They will not be able to make the transition. Now, normally, even if we were going to die, we would have more strand activity where we could get out of the incarnational cycles. This race, because of what's been done to the DNA, keeping it at the third strand activation level, has been cycling here, stuck here. All its little simultaneous time vectors, not able to get out. When we start activating the strands, the natural process comes back. And even if we don't have enough time to get all of our strands activated to where we can fully ascend and take our body with us, if we end up faced at whatever point in time with the death transition, there's ways to die hard and there's ways to die easy. First of all, forget fear. You're just going back to your more pure form anyway, if you were going to drown the body. Second off, you turn yourself into a ball of light. Pull yourself in to your heart chakra, and then push yourself up out your crown chakra. Now this is your seventh chakra, right? Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to D3? Do you want to go to D4? If you have the strand activity, if you can get your strands activated, you can choose not to get stuck in incarnational cycles. So these are some of the things that as we begin to work with the heart frequency, we are bringing the potentials of choices regarding these things back to us. Once upon a time, we didn't die our lives at all. We just took them with us, we manifested and demanifested. When the planetary bridge went down to a point where we couldn't do that anymore, we still had a choice. If we didn't want to be here anymore, we simply, decided, well, as a soul, I'm here, finish what we have to do. We didn't do suicide. We didn't have to do suicide. You simply left. You pull yourself into a ball of energy and move out of the body very gently. And usually you lay the body down someplace nice and happy. They were the things that we attribute to some God in the sky someplace or some other higher power than ourselves. These are things that our own consciousness was meant to understand, not be afraid of, and simply realize the way to move through. Now, we're going to go back from death and back. For years, people have been able to get out of here by assistance from your own cells that exist in different bodies in density 2. Alright? Remember, we're simultaneously incarnate. Right? We talked about that yesterday. Time is simultaneous in nature, which means we each come in, because we're one big team, we each come in 1,728 different pieces. That's the Christos pattern, the 1,728 cells that come into manifestation to get into manifestation at all. That's how you as an avatar gets into manifestation. What we can do is when we're stuck down here, that means the rest of our cells in the higher time cycles are stuck. What's been happening with ascension for a long time since the grids have been down here is the part of yourself that's incarnate in the time vectors that go with density 2 or density 3, have been assisting in transmitting frequency down to us here and sustaining frequency bridges in the DNA just for the transition period. And literally, when the consciousness is going to leave the body of ascension, you can ascend in two ways. You can take your consciousness with you or you can leave it behind and just take your consciousness. Most people in the last 10,000 years haven't even had the option of taking the body at all. They've taken the consciousness and kind of considered themselves alive. Because right now, our gates have been controlled. When I talk about gates, the ascension gates, the star gates. Gate 4, the solar gate, has been controlled by Anunnaki since 25,500 BC. That means, if they didn't like you and you weren't running their agenda, they would have let you through. That means your soul's up there trying to help you, get you integrated. You're stuck down here, repeatedly having to go into another body pattern down here, or float around as a ghost until somebody opens the gates. It's been a nightmare what's going on here in the astral. And now we're in a situation where we can either remember any of it. But, it is dangerous out there. But Christ is being to go where angels fear to tread. When you start to get D4 functional, which means you have the ability to take your consciousness back and forth through, you may find yourself on some interesting assignments where you get your training.
I know empathy, when you find out what they're really needing in order to move to the next place. Find that for them or give them something about that there so they can feel safe.
Right.
So that's a form of astral projection?
Yes, it is. You know, it's a form of astral projection when you create an image of yourself and put it anywhere. Imagination, when you create with imagination, you are creating thought forms in the astral level.
That's why the heart shield is so important.
Yes. Yes.
Is distinguished to the future raw conscious also a form of astral projection?
Yeah, actually it is. It's a form of expansion, actually, where you're a part of you. It can also be a form of tapping into you up there. Usually you'll get information from the future that you're in. You have a self that's incarnate in that vector, and you're starting to see through its eyes, and you get this recognition. So it's kind of like astral projection. But you're not exactly taking your body out and moving it somewhere, though you can. You can pick up on futures that way. But most often, especially if it's people that happen spontaneously to, they're not going out and looking for it. It's coming through the DNA template because they're hitting the same vibrational frequency ranges as expressions of their self that are in those time vectors. It's also very difficult to tell if it's a probability that's going to happen or one that's not going to happen. That's almost impossible to tell if it changes from a day-to-day basis. All right, so as far as recognition, we're going to get out to the mark soon, in about 2 seconds.
I know it's absolute truth that it's no way I can consciously communicate it, and it's its own part of myself that's there looking at the probability that is soon to become a reality.
Right.
For me.
There's an interesting couple of words of how that's being framed. It absolutely is your feeling, it's a knowing. It's just different than a belief. A knowing is from the soul. I mean, you feel the knowing, right? A belief is something, maybe I'll choose that, maybe I want to serve my purposes, I'll choose it, and then I'll like it, I'll give it up, right? You don't do that with knowing. It comes to you. But then you have to look at knowing as well, especially when it comes to future recognition. The way time is structured in laid out like space, there are probabilities, which means there are various different time vectors of the same set of events that could go in a variety of different ways. The way that is the fulfillment of you in your Christos self, of fulfilling your heart potential, your divine blueprint, is called the heroic path. Then there's a whole bunch of steps of different ways that through your free will choice, you could end up in a different outcome than what the Christos potential was. So when you're starting to get knowings, you can be tapping into a part of yourself that's in one of those other probabilities as well. It is absolutely true. That part is definitely living it. You know it. So you have to look even higher when you get those knowings. Because you may get knowings of doom. Okay? You may get pictures of, oh my God, I know it's how it's going to be in New York City. Yeah, I just know it. I saw it. I felt it like I was there. In some probability, yes, it is happening. But that does not necessarily mean it's going to be the probability that you have to end up in right now. But if you get your mind focused on that one, you will put yourself there. This is why one of the things that we're teaching is so exciting. There's a feeling of love that came out of this that was absolutely amazing. I was reminded that the work that we're doing right now, in planetary shields work and the round tables and healing work, that kind of simultaneous, you know, that's really fun. Well, there's a whole group in the future who their holy books and their stories of their ancients are all about the people that are on your planet right now. All of us. You know how we have built our cultural structures on the Bible and the Quran and all the holy books? These are the foundations of what is our culture now. There's a point in future time that exists right now where there are races of beings who are looking back at us as the heroes of their stories. That is the probability where this place was set free.